Welcome back everyone, Mariah Monetize here, and in today's video we're not just going over the price of Bitcoin, I'm also going to be talking about the economy in general and some very specific things when it comes to unemployment programs expiring, the housing market, consumption. We're going to cover a few things just to put it out there and to give us an idea of potentially where the economy is headed. I think that things have been super overinflated and it only makes sense that there is a correction eventually, right? We are just so overextended. The market conditions are unrealistic. I think it's important to be paying attention to markers when it comes to people's spending habits, Google Trends, the housing market, to get an idea of where things are headed. It's important to be prepared for all scenarios, and if the signs are there, we cannot ignore them. So first, let's go ahead and jump into the price of Bitcoin. So I drew this triangle on my chart a few days ago. It broke below the triangle here on July 8th. And what we didn't see yesterday, this is the daily chart here on Bitcoin, we did not see this red 2 trade below the red 1, which was a positive sign. I was also anticipating Bitcoin to be rejected by the bottom line of this triangle. And as you can see, it wicked inside the triangle, but it has been closing just outside of the triangle. So I'm still paying really close attention here to the 50 DMA. I don't think Bitcoin's going to get above it. Let's go and look at the 12-hour chart here on Bitcoin. 12-hour chart is looking a little bit better. We would want to see, sometime today, this green 2 trade above this green 1. The high of this green 1 is 34,261. But overall, I don't see Bitcoin breaking out. I think it's already started its trend of breaking down outside of the symmetrical triangle, and I think that's only going to continue. I think it's going to be a very long summer with Bitcoin. Not that exciting, not a lot of gains to be made. I think it's going to be more of buying opportunities than anything else. Let's go ahead and look at the 4-hour chart here on Bitcoin. 4-hour chart is looking a bit better, but as you can see here, lots of rejection from the bottom of this triangle, which I was anticipating yesterday. Honestly, as I look at this chart here, my first thought is probably a pretty solid time to sell some Bitcoin if you do not have long-term position. I'm talking about shorter-term positions here, money that you are going to absolutely need, okay? I'm always pro holding as much Bitcoin as you can, accumulating as much as you can, but if you're in a situation where you are going to have to sell some of your Bitcoin to live, to feed yourself, to pay your rent, personally, myself, I would be looking at some strength in the current markets to sell off small amounts that I know I'm going to have to, because you don't want to be in this potential situation, right? We're anticipating Bitcoin to drop to the low $20,000 range. We don't want to be in a situation where you have to sell down at those levels. The 30-minute chart is looking better here as we made a higher low. And this green 2 going above the green 1, bullish. Would love to see Bitcoin go above the high of this candle right here, which is 33,956, and it's getting really, really close to that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 5-minute chart of Bitcoin, also showing strength, but as we've been seeing over here the past day, 2 days, Bitcoin just continuously being rejected by the bottom line here of this triangle. I'm not going to go over any other coins, except I am going to go ahead and take a look over at traditional markets. It's Saturday, so they're closed. But what do we see? We saw SPY make a new all-time high yesterday. The high, 435.84. New all-time highs on SPY. Congratulations to everyone that is holding SPY. Okay, let's take a quick look at Tesla here. This right here is scary, right here, this cross of these two moving averages. I think there's going to be a massive buying opportunity in Tesla. So I would say, I think Tesla has obviously, come down significantly since the high. Let's go and look at a percentage perspective here of Tesla. So we saw, I believe, the high of Tesla back in January or February of this year. Let's go and take a look from a percentage perspective, how much Tesla has dropped. From the very low, it's dropped 40%. From where it is now, it's dropped about 30%. I'm anticipating even bigger correction, maybe like a 70% correction. So if we saw a 70% correction on Tesla from the top, that would take it down to about 250, 260. So what's going to happen here? You see this moving average? I think Tesla's going to break below that, and it's going to get really, really ugly. You have to take into consideration the lack of support on Tesla because it ran up so quickly, right? There wasn't a ton of support built over this period of time. We saw it just run up significantly. And so that's something that you want to keep in mind there. Okay, now let's talk about the economy. When it comes to the economy, let's first talk about unemployment at the federal level, right? So when it comes to the state level, from my understanding, these programs are, they don't have a set end date, but the federal stimulus unemployment is a completely different situation, okay? So the last 1.9 trillion stimulus package is set to end Labor Day. So Labor Day is the very end of when people are going to stop receiving that additional $300 of additional federal weekly unemployment, okay? So, but here are some interesting things to also take into consideration. Alaska, Iowa, Mississippi, and Missouri ended their federal employment benefits on June 12th. So we have seen some states phasing out the federal unemployment. Alabama, Idaho, Indiana, and Nebraska are among the states that discontinued the extra $300 on June 19th. So another set of states that ended their program a week after the previous states. Arkansas, Florida, and Texas are some of the states that stopped benefits on June 26th. So another wave of states. Maryland and Tennessee end theirs on July 3rd. That just happened about a week ago. White House Press Secretary, I don't know that person's name, said recently that governors have every right to stop benefits early. Okay, but here's the key point right here. President Biden, for his part, recently indicated that he does not plan to extend them beyond early September. Okay, so that is one thing to take into consideration. People's disposable income is dropping. Okay, so their consumption rate is also going to align with that and drop as well. I would say the majority of people are not preparing for the future, okay? We know this financial education is not taught in this country, which means a lot of people make very poor financial decisions, okay? And I would say 98% of the people that are getting all of this employment money, they're not preparing for the future. So for me personally, as someone who just started a car rental company 3 months ago, I'm also paying attention of what's going on when it comes to the car manufacturing, the shortage of chips, which has really slowed things down. So this is what's interesting right here. Intel predicts that chip shortage will bottom out in the second half of this year, after which supplies will continue to improve, but a healthy supply-demand situation is not expected until 2023, okay? So I was anticipating it to be a 2-year situation. It looks like that is how it's gonna be. If you think about it, like, with 1 full year or more of, not the correct amount of chips coming in, that just delays things over time. So that's why it's going to take until 2023 until a healthy supply demand situation to resume when it comes to the chip shortage. So for me, obviously the shortage sucks, but for me, that is actually a positive sign for the rental car business because we know that there will not be as many cars available. Just to give you an example, the salesman at the nearby Jeep dealership has 0 Jeep Wranglers available. Not new, not used, not the ugly Islander version of the Wrangler, because there was a couple of those. He has 0 Jeeps available, Jeep Wranglers, okay? So I've been trying to get my hands on some of those, not even possible if I want to. It's extremely, extremely difficult. And we all know that used cars are just insanely priced. And in Puerto Rico, they're even higher priced than in the States because there is an import tax on vehicles. So it's a good sign for my rental car business. If there's still going to be a shortage, that means that all of the car rental companies here are going to have a hard time acquiring vehicles because they always acquire brand new vehicles. And that's, the shortage is even higher there, which is just taking used cars, the price has skyrocketed there as well. So that is a good sign personally for me there. So I also wanted to look at Google Trends because for what's really important for me as well is, right, there are a lot of travelers coming into Puerto Rico, right? That is like 95% of my customer base is people traveling to Puerto Rico. We also get some local customers as well, but it is mostly people traveling to Puerto Rico. So this is really interesting because another component is how many people are traveling into Puerto Rico that are going to be my customers. So Puerto Rico travel here. You can see here, it basically peaked on Google Trends between April 11th and 17th, which was around the time of spring break. So spring break is typically pretty wild when it comes to Puerto Rico. So since April, 11th through the 17th, the decline has been pretty significant on Google Trends with people searching Puerto Rico as a destination. So although the car shortage is going to continue, I definitely have to be very cautious of the amount of travelers coming into Puerto Rico. But I'll just kind of give you an example here, and I'm probably gonna make more videos going into more detail about my rental car business. But what we typically do is, we look at Expedia prices, and sometimes we go 10% below. Sometimes we've gone as much as 50 to 70% below because the prices are just so insane. And we haven't even been advertising. We literally use a Facebook group to get our customers. But let's just say here. Let's see here. Starting tomorrow for a week, if you wanted a car in Puerto Rico, what kind of options are you going to have? So when you look on Expedia, the nice thing is they tell you exactly how many cars are available. So let's go ahead and see what we find. So there's 22 cars available, starting at $65 a day. This is really low, actually, okay? $65 a day is something I rarely see. Usually it doesn't go below $70 a day. So in this case, we're going to have to, quote on a very similar car here, about $400 to $450 a week to be able to compete, because this is also the thing is that people are not as comfortable renting from like a local small business versus they already know what the process is like when it comes to renting with like Enterprise or Hertz or any of these other companies. Does Hertz even exist anymore? I guess Avis and, a few other companies. But what we actually need to be doing is informing the customer that their process with booking with us is going to be so much easier, because they are not going to have to wait at the car rental place for hours to wait for a car, because sometimes the car rental companies overbook. We don't do that. We book like specifically for each individual car. They're going to be waiting for hours for another car to be coming in, versus we give them the information as soon as they arrive to Puerto Rico. They go exactly to where their car is and they have access to the car immediately. There is no waiting around. So we provide a much, much better service, but I honestly have to get better at communicating that with the customers. So just an idea there. So it's really interesting when you Google housing market, the variety of articles that you get, right? So it's really hard to read any of these articles and get an idea of what's really happening. But pending home sales is declining, okay? So that is one thing that you want to keep in mind. There is some sign showing in the housing market that there has been a decline. So let's go and look at the eviction moratorium extension and tenant rent relief update. It's interesting. Millions of Americans continue to struggle financially as businesses, big and small, fight to stay afloat amid repeated pandemic shutdowns and reopenings. I don't know about you, but the economy is out of control. People are spending out of control. They're traveling out of control. People are living their best lives, or at least that's what it looks like, right? I live in a travel destination. This place is typically super busy when it comes to spring break, and then it slows down. It has just been nonstop since spring break. The eviction moratorium started in March of 2020, which means that if people couldn't pay their rent, okay, then they could not get evicted. And on the other hand, there was also basically a mortgage program where if you had, I believe, a federally backed loan, you could apply for 6 months and then extend it another 6 months to not have to pay your mortgage. But you had to definitely look into the details of everything, because some of them made it to where they would add that to the end of your loan, and then other programs made it to where you would have to pay all of that as soon as the program expired. So we know that on January 1st, the renter moratorium program was extended immediately to January 31st. And then President Biden had the CDC extend it again to March 31st, right after inauguration. So the $1.9 trillion bill that was passed provided $30 billion in additional funding for emergency relief programs. So there's been a continuous extension. The CDC extended the nationwide eviction moratorium on May 29th. Then they extended to June 30th. And then the latest extension is through July 31st of this year. So basically, just to give you an idea, it protects tenants from eviction for non-payment of rent only. If you owe back rent, nothing in this or past legislation forgives your debt. It just protects you from receiving an eviction notice. How many people do you think have been saving up all of the rent that they haven't paid over the last year and a half? Maybe 1%. That would be my best guess. So it's kind of like this. We have just been, the government with all of this stimulus has just been supporting the economy. But there's going to come a time where that just collapses, and all of the weight that the government has been holding up with all of the stimulus will come crashing down. So it's going to be really interesting to pay attention to the whole moratorium extension and to see where it goes. So all I'm saying is be cautious, be aware. Disposable income is on the decline, consumption is on the decline, real estate is on the decline. Very important measurements of the economy are on the decline. People even consuming financial information is on the decline. So stay safe, be prepared for all scenarios of all market conditions. That is all I have for you today. Go have an amazing weekend, spend some time outside. Hopefully the sun is out wherever you are. That is all I have for you today. So always go out there and create a portfolio that you love, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.